to the Guest Life Podcast, episode 42.
Oh my God.
Yeah, today we've got a special guest. I've known him a long time, so as always, we're going to get right into things. But today we're going to talk media production and what do you want to call it? Entrepreneur with Domenic Grandoni from Grand Gallery Studios.
Thank you, sir. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. It's I was saying we were talking before this, and I was saying how much we've grown. So we knew each other from hockey, and now we're like doing our own thing. It's good to see us grow up and become like the next version of ourselves. So that's awesome.
Exactly. That life is interesting, kind of, especially when you can connect at a young age.
Yeah.
And then kind of move forward into adulthood or whatever you want to call it. I still feel like I'm a kid.
Yeah, me too. Like I feel like I'm 25 still.
Yeah,
so
that's why 18.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Again, episode 42. We're just so grateful for everybody tuning in and watching the show. Couldn't be here without amazing guests like with Dom.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about him and a little bit about his journey and what he's got going on now, where he came from, where he's going.
Yeah.
So where do we start, man?
I guess I'll start with like my education and how what I'm doing compared to what I'm doing now. So I started off doing architectural technology, and then civil engineering. I got my bachelor's of technology, and then I worked for a restoration company, and then I ended up going to work for the city of Brantford in the facilities department, which I told you about. And on the side now, I'm doing my Grand Gallery Studios, my content creating and for commercial work, and then got a little project going on with my buddy Pete with Project 1011. So, which,
if anybody knows Dom, like seeing his Instagram, I had no idea he had a day job. I thought this was his day job. The quality, the content, the consistency. I mean, from anybody that knows, just being active on social, how much effort and content and time you have to put into every single post, every single day, videos, follow-ups, stories. I thought for sure it was a full-time gig. So I was blown away when you said, no, I got a full-time job too.
No, I do. And I feel like I don't post enough. Like I'd like to post more, but like I said, I feel like nobody really understands the struggle of the part-time entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
So right now it's like my hope is to obviously transition into full-time.
Yeah.
Doing my own thing, but I just got to gauge on what that point in my life is. So. Yeah.
It's an interesting time, right? A lot of people think it happens overnight. And I mean, I remember for myself, like, working these side jobs and making that extra money. And I remember my mom said once, I think I made $200 one night doing a side job, and like I came home at 11.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like I was there for an hour. And I think at the time maybe I was charging $30 an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could make some quick cash," because it was the first time she asked me about money.
Yeah.
And I go, "You can." I go, "Why don't you go use your skill and do it after hours?" And it just kind of. It wasn't a thought. I think some people get stuck in that thought, like, oh, this work's done now.
Yeah.
My 9 to 5 or my 8 to 4 or whatever it ends up being. They don't think about what I can do outside, or, can I monetize my my passion?
Yeah.
So
I know it's crazy. And like for me, it all started just to film. Like I originally got into this, like wanting to film vlogs just because like I would see all these YouTubers and like posting cool content. I'm like, I want to make cool videos too. Right. So then my buddy Pete ended up getting me into weddings eventually. And then like I got into more like cinematic, like not even shooting myself on a vlog, but more shooting for other people. And I'm like, I might as well make money doing it if I'm going to do it, because I'm investing all this money in equipment, like in these cameras and stuff. And I was like, I might as well make money. And like, I remember my dad at the time was against it because he didn't know my intentions at the time. And I didn't know my intentions. So I remember vividly one night, my dad was sitting down watching the hockey game. And he goes, "Why are you doing all this film stuff and everything?" Right. And I'm like, "What have you been doing the last 3 hours?" And he's like, "Been watching the game." I was like, "I made $250. Since that time, he never said anything. Now he's proud to say like, "Oh, my son's working, doing like weddings on the weekends, doing like jobs for people." And like, that was amazing. You sort of have to, I had to put him in his place for him to understand like that I'm doing this not just for fun, but I'm doing it for like the greater vision, like more creating another income for me. You know what I mean? So, and he respects that. Like my dad's like the hardworking Italian guy. So you know how it is. So.
Well, I think too, like I don't know if their generation didn't know, but like, I don't think there was as much opportunity back then.
No, definitely not.
Especially with technology.
Yeah.
Right? Like you see some kids now, it's like, oh, I got a YouTube channel. It's like, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, some YouTube channels do pretty good.
Oh yeah, 100%.
right?
Yeah.
Rocking Jake Paul getting in a boxing fight now. Like,
Yeah, he won.
yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. People are saying it's staged. I don't know, but
Yeah, who cares?
yeah, who cares? You know what I mean? And I was telling you before, like we have all the tools now that bridge that gap. Like before, there was a whole bunch of gatekeepers, like to get on TV or get yourself out there, you're limited to going on television. And now we have the internet to do that for us. So that's another way to build the brand.
Totally.
And I was saying, like, I feel like you're the next version of, like, when it comes to technology, you're the next version of, like, the plumbing company, the modern day plumbing company, which is awesome. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, so what got you into the videography? Like, was it just...
I'll be honest. So there was one guy on YouTube. He had cool videos, like cool cars, like at the time girls going on vacations. I think his name was not Tyler the Creator, Cray Tyler. That was his name. And I started getting on Gary Vee at that time.
Yeah.
Like Gary Vee is huge for me, right? Like he's just one of those guys, like no excuses, like it's up to you. And he says it how it is. And some people don't like that, but I feel like he's telling the truth. And you have to give up stuff. You have to give up time to make time for like those things. So I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I'm going to try to pursue it. And then it just came to the point where like past beyond doing the vlogs, which was my original intentions, I wanted to create like videos for other people and make them look like a movie. Like I want to do movies because since I've been younger, I've always had like thoughts in my head and I never knew how to portray them, but I wasn't good with a camera. I started this, I think in 2017 is when I picked up my first camera, and I wasn't ever thinking that I could just grab a camera and post them. It was just more like I got a crazy idea in my head for like a horror film or this or that. And like, I was like, I never did it. Right. But now we had so much tools and I was like, you know what? This guy, Gary Vee, pumped me up. So I'm like, I'm just going to do it. So I just started doing it and sticking to it and like working hard. And I think at the time, my previous relationship, it affected it a lot because I was like trying to do anything in my power to learn as much as I could within that as little time as I had. Cause I only had after hours and the weekends to work on it. Right.
Yeah. Your day job's pretty demanding.
And day job too. Right. So yeah, but, I'm glad I did it, and I feel like right now I'm like slowing down. I've been focusing on more of my health right now. I'm dealing with like really bad eczema and stuff. So right now it's been about focusing on personal health, personal growth, and then like I'm slowly getting back into the jobs. I just showed you the video, and I really want to get it, especially now with the economy going down. I think it's a good time to pump up the jobs, and then even just to network and communicate with people and get out there. So.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, right? Like it's funny. The reason the podcast is here because of Gary Vee. I was consuming a ton of his content. I was like, I gotta either stop listening to him or do something about it.
Yeah.
And so here we are. But yeah, some of the content, and they talk about that creation and that consistency, and also like, you know, what is the intention with the content? Mm-hmm. Is it just brand recognition or is it giving back? And you know, he has that book, Jab, 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 Right Hook.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the concept around it for anybody listening that doesn't know is give, ask.
Exactly.
It's not give and take, which is the regular like context. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think it's like if it's selfish because it's selfless because it always feels better to give than receive.
Oh, 100%. I've learned growing up too. Well, not learned, I guess. I've realized growing up that like I like people's reactions when I give them something, and that's what makes me love doing my side job more. Is like my videography is because I get to see the reaction from the client. And like with my day job, it's like, oh yeah, thanks for doing the project, on to the next one, right? It's just like a factory in that sense. But when it comes to like supplying people with their pictures for weddings or content creating, and they're like excited and pumped, I'm like, I'm glad they enjoy it. Like that's what I want. Like for me, I could say my work's the crappiest work, I'm not happy with it, and they'll be like, oh, I love it. As long as the customer likes it. And I feel like I don't know if you've heard of imposter syndrome. Oh, you feel like you don't know what you're doing, and you're trying your best, and you're like, oh, this isn't good. And then people like they're ecstatic about your work, and you're like, oh my God. Like, I'm glad I appreciate it, but I don't let the highs and the lows affect me. I always like put like when people say, oh, it's not good or it's good, like I don't let that affect my ego, and because I'm not really an egotistic person, but it always just keeps me in line to say like, you know what, just keep working hard. Like that self-punishment that I tell myself it's not good enough makes me work harder. Totally. So I like that. I like that. So.
It gives you some tools, eh?
Yeah, it just gets that motivation going and wanting to be better all the time. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So like when we've got Project 1011. Yeah. And then like what made you kind of start to, I guess, specialize? Is it how to monetize this industry?
Yeah. So like I said, it started with Project 1011 is a joint venture between me and my buddy Pete. Pete, my buddy Peter Busolo, he guided me along the way a lot with that, because like he's the only one that I knew at the time that had like a camera and stuff. And he was really adamant. Like that's his full-time job. Aside from he helps his dad out at the bike shop too, but he's got the full-time job. So with him, we were just working on podcasts and stuff all the time, and we would build brands and stuff, but then we would stop and take a break. And now we're in the limbo part where we're taking a break on that too. But we worked on this big project for a comedy company, and they had asked us to do work. And I said, me and Pete will do it. Like I couldn't do it by myself. So I'm like, yo, let's do a joint venture, and that's our thing. But the struggle with that is that I'm only limited to after hours and weekends, and he does it full time. So for us to do joint stuff all the time, it's hard, but we're working on doing podcasts, obviously, and building that up. We're going to be shooting 10 podcasts and then posting them. We've got some done, but we haven't finished it. And then going back to the monetization thing, I think he told me to like what to charge and like where to start and everything. And then like I just feel like I said, all the equipment that I had, I figured I had to make money somehow. Yeah. And I could do it on something I like when I work a wedding under Grand Gallery Studios, or if I second shoot with somebody, I don't feel like it's work. Like I can work a 12-hour day, not be tired, and be like, you know what I mean? Like you have a good time with the bride and the groom, get to meet the wedding party. You know, the wedding party has fun with you. Sometimes you get to have a few shots with the wedding party and stuff. And it's just, the whole experience is like, you're just meeting new people and meeting new friends and stuff. So like for me to get the money on top of that is just a bonus. And it's just, it helps pay the bills, helps invest in my company. I think my main reason for getting the income was to pay for the equipment and get more equipment and build that up. Like it's all about the business right now. It's not really about
what's the value of some of the equipment. Like I've heard some different things in terms of quality, but I saw the video before the podcast here. Is pretty quality stuff. Yeah, like you know what, there wasn't much with that one. It was just one camera, a microphone, and that was it. So it was about that's probably about $4,405. But in total, I probably got about $12,000 worth of equipment, maybe 10 or 12. But that's talking over since 2017. So I have 3 cameras. 2 I only use. One's my old one. I just have it there as a backup. Lenses, drones, lighting stands, like all those things, right? But anything I've made, I've always just put back into the equipment because, like I said, for me, it's fun right now. So once I get to the point where I'm okay with my kit, then I can just make money and pay for the bills, right? So, yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see some of the quality, but even also some of the quality. I remember when we started the podcast, we started on an iPhone. Yeah. And it was like, oh, this isn't bad. I mean, now we got a little bit of a different setup, but some of the content's still on an iPhone, and we find there's so much back end technology. Yeah. And I'm sure it just makes such a difference when you have that front, that quality camera that's getting the right angles and. Yeah, you can tell the difference, but honestly, the new phones are getting there. They're really getting there. I'm doing reels for a company, an eyewear company, and I told the guy, 'cause for reels and TikToks and stuff, the phone stuff seems to do a little bit better. So I told him this is the price for the phone. It's cheaper for for me to bring the camera and all the equipment. It's going to be a little bit more. So he went with the cheaper option, but I shot one of his workers there, and I was like, I couldn't believe how good the phones are getting. You don't even need, I tell people, you don't even need a high-end camera, just to do podcasts and stuff. You don't need that. If you want the top-notch quality and the blur back, the phones aren't perfect. I don't know if you could tell the difference, but when you got the blur backgrounds now on the phones, but it does affect some of the subjects in there. Yeah. But the cameras, that's where the camera differentiates, is those little fine details. But other than that, it's getting really good, man. Really? The iPhone 14, I got the 13 Pro, which is good, but the 14 is even better in a low light, got the better blur background and stuff. It's getting up there, man. I'm going to be shooting weddings on phones pretty soon. Really? Well, probably. It's getting to that point where it's you could probably get away with it. Right now, nobody would know. Yeah. I think the bride's going to want to see that big, that's big long lens. You know what I mean? That's the only thing. Shot, yeah. Exactly. There's the ego coming in. Yeah. So I guess a big thing is when we're talking about this time period where your side hustle / business on the side, and it's when is the right transition? What's going through your head right now in terms of what that might look like in the future? That's a good question.
I still don't. I still have to gauge the right time.
Like, I think a lot of people right now, like I see it a lot. I see it a lot in so many different facets. I know, nurses that are doing injections on the side, or they're doing health and beauty. I got construction workers building decks on the side. I got plumbers doing side jobs. And it's like, is it just a skill set thing? Is it a finance thing? Is it I want to be an entrepreneur thing? Or is there stability that, comes into play?
I think for me right now, it's knowing through the hard economic times we're going through with like obviously inflation and gas and everything. Like I know I'm not going to do it like probably in the next year or two, just because of the situation we're in, because I have that safety net of working for the city. I would say on a business aspect, when it comes to like skills on the business portion, I have to get better at that. Like on the creative stuff, I can get away with, like you've seen my work, like I'm not saying I'm the best, but I can get away with providing people a good product and them being happy with it. But for me, it's more about the business aspect and creating like a good workflow. Like I'm really picky with my work, and sometimes that's a downfall because I spend so much time. Like I remember when I was doing that video I was editing it, and I would edit like the same thing 3 times because I didn't like it. Like I'd go back to it and edit it, and that causes me to like spend more time on it, and I got to get that workflow down where I'm quick, right? So I got to get that workflow down plus the business, but like in terms of providing a good product, I can do that.
Would you have like at what point would you think of staff?
Like full-time staff? I don't know.
Like, is that something like I always thought? Like, I think it's interesting to talk about it now, going through the process, because when I look back at what we've done here, it's like I didn't even think of that. Like it wasn't even a thought. Staff wasn't a thought. How to run the business wasn't a thought. Payroll wasn't a thought. It just wasn't a thought. It was. I remember it was just very simple. It was, if I can make $1,000 a week and get more time, I'm jacked.
You're good, yeah.
It didn't come into play. I think it was almost like, I think if I knew everything, I wouldn't have done it.
Because you'd be more scared, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I'd be terrified.
Yeah, because you're like, I have to do this, and
it's terrifying at that beginning stage. Like I think, it's terrifying, but it's like if you like a challenge, which obviously it sounds like you do, it's the most exciting thing too, right?
Oh, 100%.
Because like just like you said, that 12-hour shift feels like nothing.
Yeah.
You're not. What did they say? If I'm gonna butcher this, but it was something like, if you don't want to worry about the price, you shouldn't be watching the time.
Yeah.
And it's like that kind of factor of like, if you're always looking like, oh, when's it 3:30 and I can leave? You're always going to be looking at what the price is on the tag.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you want to not worry about the price tag, the time doesn't matter.
I get that. I get that analogy. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Like I think in terms of staff, and it depends which route I want to go, because right now I'm doing weddings, I'm doing commercial.
Because how many people go to a wedding to do that? Like you've got a couple stills, couple video people, or are you just doing video? Yeah,
so it depends what package. So like I offer photo, I offer just video, and I offer a combination. If I do just photo or just video, it's just me. If I offer both, I got to hire somebody, right? But it's more sub. It's not really having a full-time staff. So my girlfriend actually is into photography, so I'm trying to get her into weddings. And then obviously I made connections through Pete and through other people over the years for second shooters, right? So I'll say, hey, like I'll get you to lead the photography. I pay them a little bit more. And then second shooters, which is like if they want a second photographer, second videographer, you pay like probably half of what the lead's getting, right? But when you're getting into bigger movies and bigger productions, you need more staff. Like people forget, me and Pete were having this conversation because I'm the guy who likes to have a little bit of control over everything. So I'd rather have a one-man show and do smaller projects that are worth a decent amount. So you can get away with doing like a commercial project by yourself with some lighting and maybe having one assistant there, and still make maybe $4,000 or $5,000, depending on, it could be more than that. But like I'm saying, even to start off as a decent project for like working for like a commercial company, you can get that amount of money. But I'm doing smaller jobs than that right now because for me, like I said, I'm growing the business, but I'm slowly growing the business. I haven't reached that point where I'm contacting Nike or New Balance or anything for saying, hey, I want to work with you guys, or even get a sponsorship or something. Yeah. So it all depends how far you want to take it. If you're going into full film production sets, there's a camera guy, then there's a guy that pulls focus, which means so for instance, cameras have autofocus where it autofocuses it detects the face. But in the real camera world, when you're making films, there's a guy that literally focuses like on the thing. It's not the camera doing the work. It's a guy that does it. So
Really?
the roles are split. The bigger you get, the roles are split up. So you got a guy that's like, you got the director, you got the guy that's charged like the DP, the director of photography, you got cameraman, you got, it's a lot more roles the bigger you get if you want to get into films. But if you want to do commercial stuff, you can get away with getting like one or two guys, like one guy and an assistant. It depends how big you want to take it, right?
Wow.
So if weddings more subcontracted out, unless you're working with, like, you have a partner and you say, hey, you're my full-time photographer person, right? It depends. Like it really depends on the situation. So
Man, it's so interesting when you start learning about industries you're just not familiar with. That's one of the things for us and what we do in business is like you don't realize all the different positions that can like externally come in when it's like, whether it's an accountant or whether it's a bookkeeper or we just hired an estimator and it's like what? It's like
I did estimating before,
right?
In restoration, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's challenging.
It is. Like do you use any programs or no?
Yeah, we're just getting onto a company called Stack.
Oh, okay.
Which is just so interesting because at the end of that, now it's job costing because you go see it. Well, how was your estimate? It's like, well, we won the job.
Yeah.
Could be a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a struggle right now with the market. That's a struggle too, because like things are inflating like crazy, right? And I don't know if you guys get to do you guys plug in your own pricing for Stack or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when I was in restoration, we used to use Xactimate, and like you would have to draw the perimeter, like draw the building, the perimeter, and then it automatically does the calculations for you, right? Like you draw the house and stuff. Yeah. So it figures everything out. You would have to draw the house layout and everything. And it'll say you have this many, like you have 2 feet worth of drywall you took out. So you'd have that unit price and it would do a linear foot worth of 2 feet of drywall and it would calculate, which made it easy, right?
Yep.
But like I said, now with the markets, and I'm struggling with my full-time, like my day job. And it's hard to get quotes now because like, what's the market going to be? And like, because we're pre-planning for jobs for next year. What's the market going to be? And that must be hard for you too.
Oh, totally. Yeah. 30 days.
Yeah. Because metal's going up like crazy and down like crazy and stuff, depending on the supply and demand. So it's nuts. And like, there might be a job you're quoting for that might take place in 4 months. What happens if, you know what I mean? If the price goes up before then, you can't hold that inventory, right? So
totally. Yeah. So talking about like, you got your day jobs, big, going on side gig. How do you manage your personal work? What pushes it up? What pushes it down?
It's hard.
Is there something called balance, or you say, not for me?
There's a little bit of I'm starting to get a little bit back into balance. Fortunately, I'm lucky enough where like, because I'll tell you all the things that I guess are my values is obviously my family's value. So time with my family, time at my work, all my jobs, like all of them, full-time, part-time, my girlfriend and the gym, like those are my priorities, right? Gym's been taking a little bit of a setback the last few weeks. Like I was starting to get back into it, but then I'm fortunate enough where my girlfriend's doing the same thing I am, and she's starting to realize what it takes to do this. So like, as an example, she was on her phone the other day and she had like so many people contacting her for jobs, and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm on my phone. I was like, I understand. So when you have that understanding from especially the girlfriend, because like I said, my previous relationship, it affected, but having that understanding of like, she knows I'm doing this to better myself and to get jobs and to build up a company because she's in the same boat, it makes it a little bit easier on that thing. And like, I sit down and I apologize. She's like, I get it. And now she really gets it. And my family, I really want to see my family more, but like work's taking the priority right now just because that's my income. Yeah. And like, my day job, I'm working for somebody else, and then the side jobs are slowly getting bigger. So there's a little bit of balance. I have a little bit of a schedule, but sometimes stuff takes precedence over other stuff, right? Like sometimes I have to give up, and I have my own house. I'm by myself in my house, right? So I got to give up like cleaning the house one day to go finish a video. Like I spent one night, all I'm doing tonight is videos. Yeah. Because I felt inspired. So if I'm inspired, everything takes a back seat. Yeah. Because you want to work, you feel like you want to do that job. So I just did it all in one night. I did the whole thing. So it depends on the mood. It depends on a lot of things.
Man, that's awesome.
I'm a chaotic type of person. Like I'm really chaotic. I like chaos, but when it gets too much, when the stress builds up, that's when I got to take a relax.
Calm and chaos is the key. Is key there as an entrepreneur. So we asked this question to everybody on the podcast. What advice would you give to your younger self, maybe coming in or in that guy 2017? Getting involved. What advice would you give?
I would say make time for work-life balance, especially knowing now that I'm so far into it and it's getting more difficult. So I would say Really focus on work-life balance. Focus at the beginning. Focus on building the brand. Don't focus on getting all the money, because I feel like even if you work for free with the right people, you'll get the money later, right? And I've made some connections and stuff, and I some people I do get, like, I find I work with them and I know I have a potential to go further. I'll give them a little bit of a, a discount. And I think that having the relationships between your clients and you is more, and building that brand and saying this guy's a good guy, his brand's good, he's professional, he's fun to work with, not just being a professional person, but I feel like being fun to work with. And we were talking about even this podcast, being fun to work with and feel like you're just like having a good laugh with people and working with people is more important than being like the tight down knit person. It just builds relationships. Building relationships will get you further, because then that person tells the next person, because they like working with you. This person's fun. You know what I mean? Those things I think matter the most. And just if you're doing it for in terms of a side hustle, invest in the business. Like if you're making money, don't use it to buy. Like whatever, like you got to buy the newest phone, do it to build the equipment on the business. Because then if you really like doing what you do for your side business, it'll benefit you because you get better product, better quality.
Totally.
Build that up. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's a big one. Like putting it back into the business and not treating it as like side cash too. It's not side cash, it's side business. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show.
No problem.
Guys, everybody tuning in, we always ask ourselves this question is why not me? Why not now? Dominic's just a great example of that, kind of taking himself to that next stage and creating long-term wealth. So all his social media platforms will be in our links below. Please check it out. It's awesome. He's posting a lot. I know he says not as much as he'd like to, but it's out there and it's really impressive. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Sweet.
Always a pleasure.
It's awesome, man.